Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ophelia Poma, and if you're meeting me for the first time, I'm your online clinical psychologist, and I come here every day to offer you mental health tips on how to navigate your mental health journey. So today, I want us to talk about healing. Okay, so what is healing? And when we say we have healed, what does it mean? I know it's a very sensitive topic and it's a big conversation, right? But we need to have some form of or some level of understanding about healing, and I'm here to offer you that closure. Okay, so what is healing? Healing is the process of integrating from pain to restoration to balance and wholeness. All right, so whatever that may have caused the brokenness, whether inner conflict, whether loss or grief, whether injury, or interpersonal conflicts with others, after you have broken and then you need this form of healing, it means that you are back to functionality, you are back to being whole, you are back to regaining a balance. Now, the reason for healing does not mean that we want to erase the event that happened, or we want to act like it never happened. No, it's actually about us gaining meaning and then peace inside of us. And after we have healed, we can now sense an alignment in our body, in our mind, in our spirit, in our souls, in our hearts. All right, so I would like us to understand that healing in itself, it's strength. Some people normally think if they are broken it's because they are weak. That is not true. It's actually because you are strong. That is why you are regaining a posture for healing. You are taking a movement to self-healing journey. Okay, so a lot of times healing is not really about us going back to what happened or who we were, but becoming what we are meant to be after the wound or the brokenness. Now, there are types of healing. There's physical healing that we all know, that is more of recovery from injury, illnesses, or disease. This may need the intervention of a doctor, nutrition, exercise, and all of that to regain balance. Now, in psychological healing that we all know, which comprises of the emotional and mental wounds, with psychological healing, an example of this would be about us reducing emotional reactivity. An example like trauma. Sometimes people get triggers, you know, of what they've gone through, but when you're able to share your story without any emotional triggering you, it means that you have healed or you're beginning to heal. And then self-compassion, reducing any form of self-blame. I know some people who have been sexually abused, they normally like blame themselves. It's my cause, I shouldn't have gone there, I should have known, blah blah blah. No, all of those ones doesn't mean that you have healed. True healing, you reduce the self-blame and you rather move towards mercy and self-compassion and understanding, gaining meaning and control of the situation. And spiritual healing is about healing your inner core, like your identity, who you are, your relationship with God, with others, gaining a sense of meaning and purpose of who you are. This can include restoration of your trust in God. Maybe something happened and you're asking God, like we normally do, where is God? And I'm going through all this. After a while, you begin to trust in God again, and you reconnect your purpose and your identity in God, by providing God the chance to work through you, and then you having your will to be aligned to God's will for your life. Okay, that's spiritual healing. Now, relational or social healing. This also connects with mental health. An example is your attachment, or sorry, repairing attachment wounds. Okay, maybe when you were a child, you faced some negligence or inconsistent parenting, and so now you have an insecure or anxious avoidant attachment. So now you need such secure attachment to heal your social life. And then learning healthy boundaries, I think this is very important, and I'll talk about this in another time. We need to learn what healthy boundaries are and then observe them for ourselves and then for other people. Now, let's talk about moral or identity healing. Have you heard of the word moral injury? Okay, it's about hurting yourself, like really having an inner conflict of who you are, your identity, where you are meant to be, and stuff like that. So it's also about overcoming shame. All right, people have chosen a path that their family have not accepted them, and they themselves are finding it hard to connect, right, to relate to what they have chosen for themselves. And so they need to overcome the shame. So you are healing to prevent shame, to avoid shame, to overcome shame, and then rebuilding your self-worth, and also accepting your own story without self-rejection or self-blame. We have what we call narrative therapy, where people are guided to write their story, like create their identity, who they are, to accept themselves without calling them names or being hard on themselves. All right, so now how can we heal? Okay, so what's the journey to healing? Number one is actually knowing what you're going through, as in like um acknowledging and accepting what you're going through. So what is it? What healing do you need? Is it physical, psychological, social, moral, spiritual? Whatever healing that you think it is, you need to name your emotions and validate the pain you're going through. When you have done that, then you move from denial to acceptance. I know normally when we are going through something, we think that resisting is the right answer. But have you heard that what we resist persists? You actually, psychology has taught me that the more you accept, and we have a therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. You need to accept something, understand it, right, and navigate through it. That is one way we can actually overcome certain pain and then gain total healing. All right. Number two, meaning making requires you to have an understanding of why, right? Without self blame. Just be curious about what is happening in your life and try to see whether you can have some meaning to it. Okay. This actually would link us to spirituality, as in understanding the meaning of suffering and endurance. All right, and integrating your trauma into your identity. There are so many therapies that can work with this. All right. And then lastly, self-compassion. Okay, replacing self-criticism with kindness. No matter what you go through in life, I always understand that the core of who you are is the answer to your healing. After you have lost everything, I'm not talking about material possessions. I mean, after you have lost the trust of people, you've lost faith, helplessness, hopelessness, inside of you, you have to preserve something that nothing has ever touched before. And anything that happens in your life, you can always dab into that energy, into that source, and regain healing and regain trust and faith and hope, some little sense of hope in you to start all over again. Okay, and I really hope that in life we can all create that little angel in us or little strength in us that would always help us to regain our balance and wholeness after pain or injury. Okay, so how can we heal spiritually? Like I said, because I'm a Christian, I would just want us to talk about this. So prayer, crying out, okay, questioning God. People say you can't question God, but I've come into my profession, I've understood that it's questioning that can help people to heal. As a psychologist, I will not expect that I would have a client seated in front of me and will not question me. Then how can they gain closure? How can how can they heal? They need to question God. They need some level of Holy Spirit interpretation of things that have happened and closure. They need to, and then you have to wait. As you question, you don't have to want to find the answers that right moment. You need to wait, because waiting would also mean that you're giving yourself the time to heal all those broken parts. So if you do not know how to wait, learn to wait on God and He would help you. Now for those of you who are doubting spirituality and psychology, this is where I bring the connection. Okay, so in psychology, healing explains how we heal, and in spirituality, healing explains why healing matters. So this is the two. So if you're a Christian, you would understand why we have to heal. You have to heal because it's important, and you need to gain balance and a sense of control with God. And in psychology, it